How did you meet him?
He, I forget what class was it? Math class?
You know what class it was.
It was it was either math or English, but I think it was math class. So he was in my math class, and he actually knew a kid that I went to school with in Sudbury that lives around his way. And I remember probably a time, maybe a party or something that I was introduced to him. I met him or something through my friend, or I don't know how that went, but I know that I met him through my friend that was at the school with me. And then when I came to that school, he remembered me, and he was like, "Do you remember me from, Marcus or whatever?" I was like, "Oh, okay." I gave him a number. That's how that went.
But so now you guys are.
We're together. We started dating, and we were together all the time, inseparable. It's my boyfriend.
You have two. Your boy. You have two sons, right?
Yeah.
And your boy is your son's father.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but real quick before we get into a little personal, like, when you catch flashbacks, you seem like you're putting yourself there, like you miss him, or you like to, like.
Well, I mean, this is how we are. The way I see it, it will always be that's my family. He's always going to be my family.
I respect that.
And I don't have any hatred towards him or any, anger about that. Again, that's just like anyone else in your family. Sometimes you can speak to them today, sometimes you can't speak to them tomorrow. So in that sense, I'm not, it's not like, oh, that's my ex or this past relationship kind of thing. Like, that's my family.
But you were smiling, you were a little giggly.
You was talking about high school.
Her face lit up. Her face lit up when you.
So you guys get together at such a young age.
Yeah, we're together at a young age.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're together at a young age. Yes. Now, bring us to we want to know, like, bring us to the steps of that relationship. Because when you watch the shows, they do a whole bunch of.
Yeah, they do a whole bunch of things on the show. Yeah. So just to guide you through it, we met in high school. We were together in high school, inseparable all the time, and we grew up together. We're in high school. We're turning into young adults. We're figuring out what we want to do in life and which way we want to go, and we're learning life, learning who we are, as people, and where we want to go, and what we want to do. Hanging out, doing what typical teenagers do. And we went to school together. We happened to be to school together, so we see each other all the time. We hang out with each other after school. We see each other on the weekends. We're together all the time.
Yeah. I was say, was it like love at first sight? Because you seem like once you mentioned his, his situation in school, your face lit up.
Stop with this. It's my family.
It's my family.
It's not your family. It's not your family. Bro.
It could have been a guy.
Look,
it could have been a guy you met and you guys got it rocking and had kids, and then maybe different feeling.
That's not her family.
Yes, he is my family.
He's
my children's father.
So, family and that. Okay, I got it. I see.
Right?
So, when do you notice things start to change with him? What's his name again?
Herb.
Herb. My man
Yes.
Herb. I was watching it. Yeah, my man Herb. But when you notice things start to change?
Well,
Because if you're going from high school, that means you saw the transition. Because I'm pretty sure that his behavior wasn't like that while in high school.
no, not at all. And it didn't happen like, soon after high school either. So I say around like 1990, around 1995, 1996, things with us as people were just changing. What you want to do, what I believe we need to be doing, and what you're still trying to do. Like, you're still hanging out, being this young guy, and, I'm being this mother, working, going to school, trying to have this family thing, And, I don't think that that was a priority for him at that time, And I get it, a young man still, in the mix, out and about, still trying to live and hang out and do what you're doing, But in about 1997, around that time, 1996, what ended up happening is he got shot at the Jamaican festival. He was shot by an off-duty officer, and I remember that day very vividly because me and the kids were home, and he was supposed to be going to get us something to eat, but I don't know how he ended up in Boston. So we ended up seeing him on TV, laid out, because he had just been shot. So he got it, kind of grazed his head back there a little. So after that, I noticed a change. I noticed a change, and I didn't know where it was coming from, really. I couldn't pinpoint it, So as far as knowing when, confirming that he was using, someone told me it. Someone told that to me. So I didn't really know. I know the effects of someone smoking weed or, being drunk or whatever. I just thought it was, I really didn't catch on to what was really happening.
So I
didn't see it myself.
You wasn't, no disrespect, you wasn't attentive.
I was attentive, but I didn't know. I don't know the symptoms of, I didn't know what was, I didn't see him really doing anything abnormal. I was just thinking, like, you're really smoking too much weed. You know what I mean?
I mean, and if you guys had a disagreement, and excuse me for putting this together, but if you had a disagreement, and even though you stood up to it, because you said that you would fight back, it was more like a fight. But in retrospect, you were used to seeing that before, so it was like a norm.
Absolutely, yeah, it was normal.
So that's why you couldn't really see a sign of a change in behavior, as far as like because I would want to know if somebody's smoking or doing drugs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's the change in the behavior at the house? When would I know? Like, okay, he's doing drugs. He's on drugs.
Well, he always
did he get
smoked
laced,
weed.
or you think somebody laced him?
I'm not sure. Because he's always smoked weed. That was like nothing. But I just noticed and he was spending a lot more time not at home. So probably I missed a lot of signs of things or didn't pay so close attention because he wasn't home that often. And probably due to, maybe not wanting me to see or notice any side effects or anything. So I didn't really notice that. But now after someone mentioned it to me, told me what was happening, I started to kind of, kind of think of, okay, I don't know I don't know this type of thing. I wasn't familiar with that. To know, if you're nodding or whatever, stuff like that. I'm just on your side.
A family member?
No. There was this guy.
Oh, I hate her. I hate her. Trying to get with you, right?
He had always tried to get with me since we were young. It was a guy.
Yo.
Hold on. Hold on.
Ayana,
Yes.
you dead serious?
I'm serious.
You giving somebody, come on. That's
I did not.
bro.
That's not true. I didn't talk to the guy. No. That's not true. I wasn't.
You was entertaining it, wasn't you?
I did not entertain. I never liked the guy ever.
Right.
Never.
Like that.
No, I never liked the guy. I always, in fact, really despised him. He just has this aura I never liked. So when we were younger, he always tried to talk to me, but I never did. And he would always tell me on different guys that I was dating that they were doing X, Y, and Z. So he was just that type of person. Yeah. So when I saw him at this club we all went to, he was, I always hate making eye contact with him or whatever. I just say, what's up or whatever. And he, I think we were standing somewhere and he came up to me like, oh, so, you're still looking good. Everything looks good, whatever. It's messed up. What, how are you doing with, what Herb got going on? I'm like, what does he got going on? What are you talking about? And then he said, well, he be with so-and-so and they, doing, it's like, no, he doesn't. What are you talking about? And that's how I found out. So when he said that, I was like, when we left, my cousin and I, we left, and then I called her and be like, do you know what so-and-so said? He had the nerve to say you was doing, why would he say that? And he was like, are you on your way home? And it was something like that, and I was thinking, why is he not mad like me? So that's
That's
how it happened.
Was it ever infidelity with him? Did he ever have?
Yeah.
Did you have to? Don't try to play my man.
yeah.
I'll go to the corner again.
Like
Two
okay.
times.
Don't try to play my man Herb, bro.
What? We're early. Look, I
Don't
had
try to play my
a
man
kid
Herb
at
like
17 years old. You know, like we're in our early 20s.
So, have you ever seen him cheat on you with a girl? Like you ever had to approach a girl?
Well,
Because you don't
first
got
of
that
all,
character. I don't know.
first of all, me, I would never
Yeah, G.
approach a girl. Like I do remember one time catching him on the phone with a girl and me just calling her number back like, so who are you? Do you all talk? Whatever. And she was like, yeah, we were talking for like 4 months. And I'm like, 4 months? Like really? And I did see him one time walking down the street with his friend, and that he had his arm around this girl, and his friend had his arm around the other girl, and they was coming from his friend's house. And I remember taking my car and driving it on the sidewalk to hit him. I remember that.
What? What? Wait.
I remember that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you, G. Hold on.
Damn.
It was a reflex.
This.
I can't
I'm
picture
gonna
her.
close my. Let's walk me through the area. Walk me through it.
I can't
I'm in
picture
Hyde
her
Park.
crazy like that.
You in your car?
I'm in the car. I have my
Driving,
sons in the back seat.
Southbound or westbound? Southbound or northbound?
Southbound.
All right, I see where you going.
Coming down the street with my sons in the back seat because
Oh,
we're supposed to
man.
go to the barbershop, and this is it's barbershop day. And where are you? Didn't get no answer. So I go riding around looking like it's barbershop day. So when we're coming down the street, I seen him with this girl walking with his arm around her, and I was like, and I just, it was a reflex.
Did they jump out the way?
Yeah.
So when you did that, you kept driving or you parked?
I just kept going because, I had the kids in the car. I did.
You about to do a hit? You did a fake hit and run?
I did. It was a fake hit and run. It's like I caught myself. That did make sense. I have my sons in the car. They're little kids. I shouldn't. That was.
What did he say to you when he got home, or when he got in car?
I believe he came to the barbershop and took my car keys. Yeah, I remember that. He was like, as if I didn't know what I was. I don't know what it was, but he took my car keys.
I'm gonna ask you a question. G. What did you initially like about Herb? Like, what did you like about him?
Honestly, he has a heart of gold. He's a real cool person. Like, he is, like a guy's guy. He's a good friend and all those different things. He really is.
I was going to ask, does he remind you of your dad in any way, shape, or form?
Not really, no.
Because some people find
Some people
someone
say that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They
Yeah,
find
no.
somebody that's like one of their parents.
So he wasn't
No.
like, he's not funny like your pops, but
No.
when you say he's a
But he's
man's
cool.
man, mean that he stands up for things like.
He's just a cool person. Like if there is anybody that would have your back, he would be the person to have your back. Regardless of what.
But
You know what I mean?
That's an X answer.
I don't see it like that.
Yeah, I don't want to X. I want to know when you was in the situation what you liked about Herb.
I'm telling you, I did. He is really a
How did he
cool
make you
person.
feel?
He made me feel like I was so pretty, but I already knew that.
You trying to fix it. So, but in no disrespect to you.
No, but he was really honestly
He complimented you a
friend.
lot.
Yeah, we would go out. He buy me jewelry and stuff.
Oh.
He bought me some jewels in high school. But we was real cool though. He's a cool guy.
Conversation wise.
Yeah, we talk about anything, go anywhere, do anything. So, I let him in my life. Like he knows, like I let him in my life where I felt comfortable to let him know who I am. And I don't really always do that. Well, and especially as a young teenager, I didn't because I wasn't, very trusting. So it was cool.
And sorry, G. And the thing is, like, okay, you guys, he was cool.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk to him.
Yep.
You were going through issues as well. Like, we're not really going through issues, but you wasn't listening. But at the
I
age
was
you
wilding out
you
as
was
a
wilding.
teenager. I was wilding out, yeah.
And at the time,
Mm-hmm.
at any time, did you feel like he wanted the best for you, or it was just that Because listen, what I'm saying. This is a difficult question to me.
Okay.
But you maybe can answer it. Was he one of those people that were encouraging you to do nigga shit, or was he like, let's do it, or was he one of those people that was like, yo, you gotta chill out, or you think that he was young with you, so we both was on that bull? Like,
we were both young. He had a whole bunch of friends. I wasn't a person who ran with a lot of friends, so I think I was more so the person that was like, you know, that's you should like watch yourself. But
nice.
I just felt like he was just being a part of something, but he really that wasn't really who he was. You know, so
you knew
I just saw
him.
who he really was. I always looked at him as I know who he is.
You know the real him. Got
Yeah.
it. Good, that's good. So things get a little crazy. You guys are fighting. You try to run him over. He was with a girl.
Yeah.
On barbershop day with the two boys in the back. You try to run him over. And then you find out that he's on drugs.
That
During
was
the time. You find out from a hater, a guy that was trying to take you down.
Absolutely. Yep.
He told you he been trying to take you down for years. You give him
Yep.
no play. You sure
Still
you
hasn't
no play?
worked. Sure, never have. And just seen him recently too. Same deal. I don't even look at him in the eye.
What he say to you? How he say it? Give me the.
He was like, "You look so good, and look at you. And so, how are you doing with knowing what Herb's doing? You know, how you feeling about that?" And I was thinking,
He's
what?
like, hey,
We're in a club. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
That's crazy.
What is he doing? I was thinking he was about to tell me about a girl, you know.
He told you, yeah.
But he told me that, and I was like, that just ruined everything.
So now, when was the time that because it is said that he sort of gave you the idea to do the scams that you were doing?
Let me backtrack there because when I not to interpret it as he told me to do that or the excuse or the reason that happened. And just to backpedal a little bit to let me tell you what I noticed about myself, what I know of myself that I have to accept accountability for. Going back to when I was at the other schools and what I started to develop into, I always wanted the better things. I wanted the things that I saw that other kids have, and it wasn't happening for me. So I would like steal little scratch and sniff Snickers, like when we would have book club day and the kids would get the smelly good erasers and the nice pens and pencils in the books. My mother would be like, no, if you ever gotten the little paper, you come and check off all the books and all the stuff you want on this day. And it was like, I never could get that. So I started to as I got older, I would take those things, right? I then even remember taking someone's book. I remember taking someone's lunch because they had like the Granny Smith green apples with the lemon juice on them. It was like just different stuff. And I just wanted the best of those things. So I had already developed this mentality of taking things. And those little, like it starts off little like that. And I'm acknowledging that today, because sometimes I think that people are doing things in their adult life, but it's things that already were happening in your life. So you already probably had something like that in you, is what I feel. And I can say that about myself. So it's little things like that I know in my life had started to happen, just wanting more. Now, it never went any further than that for me, but I wasn't afraid to do that. So now we get to this situation, and he wasn't really like saying this to me. He's just talking out the side of his, he's saying something. And I held on to those words. But probably in my head, I probably had already was thinking of how does this work? You know what I mean? But it's not something I would have done.
Sorry to cut you off. For those who don't know, can you explain to them the job you had so we can know kind of what you're talking about for those who don't understand?
Okay. So in my position, as you'll see in my story, I was a financial aid advisor. Well, that's my other time. But at this time, I was a director of students accounts, right? And the Perkins loan coordinator. In this position, I would receive checks from the banks, and my position was to log those checks and to deposit them, right? For the Perkins loans, students, I managed that program where, they had to repay that loan to the school. So those checks I didn't touch. That was very small. But the checks that came in from consolidation through the banks from students consolidating their student loans so that they can make one lump sum payment to the banks and lose their grace period, that's what I deposited at that time for the beginning, the first case. So when he came to my job and he was like, he had never been in my office before, and he's seen all these checks, like, what what's going on in here, and he's always in the mix and always knows somebody who does X, Y, and Z. So he just ran that off and said it, and he doesn't even remember saying this, but I held on to that, and I kept that in the back of my mental, and I was probably already putting a little scheme together, really unconsciously, but not to say that, again, he didn't tell me to do that or talk to me about it, because nobody knew what I was doing. He didn't know what I was doing. I never let anyone know, really, until the end.
What's some of them checks looking like? Like, what are some numbers that you saw them checks first?
9,000, 20,000, 12,000, in that range. Probably the largest at one time would have been a check for maybe 35,000, maybe, yeah.
Well, chill. But was this before, like, he? Because they said that he was taking TVs at the house one time.
That's a different time. So that's what it been. So
was
that
this before. Was this after?
This was before then.
This was before then.
Yeah. So I have two cases that are featured on the show.
Got you. I
yeah.
Don't rush me. So he come in your job. And don't act like you don't remember what my man said. We ain't gonna try to.
I'm telling you, that's the truth. I wouldn't lie to you.
Exactly. I'll tell you if you need the idea. What he said.
He said, "What are you doing? What is all this? Like, what are you doing with it?" And I said, "This is my job." He's like, "You get somebody just can deposit one of those, huh?" And I was like, "No, you don't do that." It was like, just hurry up and get out of my office, kind of thing. So it wasn't really a long conversation. It was just something he blurted out.
So tell us about, like, and G-Money actually, tell us about, after how long did he say that till you did that? You started doing it?
I say it was probably like a couple of months.
And tell us, like, how you figured the way. Like, walk us through, like.
Well, so how I figured it out was the way that I entered the checks into the system. And then I, just follow, like, where it goes to this and, what the flow of things was. What's the process? And then when I realized what the process was and how I could manipulate the system, then I was like, okay, I'm going to try. We'll see.
And how can you manipulate? Like, we not, listen.
What?
Like, I'm sorry. Like, we not doing that.
What?
What? We not here was thinking, it makes sense. I ain't going to repeat.
It's a process.
I mean, walk us through.
Walk you through it, detail.
Your cases, you already did your time.
Yes.
All right, so you ain't gonna get locked up unless you don't want to tell the hate on
No,
somebody
I can
else.
tell you. You receive the check comes into the school.
No,
from
but
the
how
bank.
did you?
I get it.
How did you figure out the whole method? Like, you tried it? Like,
because it's a job that I was doing every day.
Okay.
It's a job that I was doing every day. So I did it as a regular job. The checks come in, I stamp them, add them into the system, and then they pile up, and I would do daily deposits. And then I would send over a report to our fiscal office, and this is what's accounted for. And that's how that went. So that was my job that I did on a daily basis.
Okay,
then what I figured is after a while I would not enter in the checks that were received, not all of them, or I would change the number to some of them, and that's how it went. So I just manipulated the system.
What do you mean?
It's credits and debits, because I have access to go in and change numbers around, remove things from here, pull this down here, this can disappear over here, and I learned how to do that. I manipulated it so that they wouldn't be looking for this, because they don't know it's coming.
The students do not know that they're receiving a check.
No, it's not. So this position, it's not coming for the students. It's coming to the school, because the student has gone to a bank and requested to consolidate their student loans. So then when you consolidate your student loans, the bank is now paying off the school who lended you the money, and you're paying the bank for the consolidation. So it's not checks that are going to the students, it's checks that are going to the school.
Oh. All right, so
Don't try this at home, yeah.
Do not.
you figured out a way.
Mm-hmm.
Bring us to the day that you actually bought a check to the bank and cashed it in.
The first one.
The first one. So,
How much was it? Like 2,000?
No, it was about 900 and something dollars. It was like it was light. It was 900 something. So I remember, there was a whole bunch of them, and I was thinking I'll try something small, and I took it. When I went to make the deposit for the school, I left this one check, and I deposited it into my own account. And it's like I didn't sign it. We had a rubber stamp, and I know that I learned at this point that you didn't even have to sign it or put the rubber stamp on. They still cashed them, right? So then in my head, thinking of this scheme, like, well, if I don't sign it, then, like that was dumb. But this is what my thinking was, like, okay. So I remember the next day, the check was clear. And I was like, wow, it cleared. Go to the ATM, withdraw this money. And once it came out and nothing happened, I was like, okay.
Showtime.
Yeah.
But hold up, that first day you went, like, how nervous were you that first day? Like, were you shaking? Were you scared? You tell a friend about it?
I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. I was a little nervous about it, but you know what? Another part of me was just like, I don't know if I really cared at all. I don't really know. I don't think so.
Yo, hold up. What you mean you don't know if you ain't kidding?
I didn't have, like, you know how if you do something and you feel like, okay, I can't do this because it could lead to X, Y, or Z. Mm-hmm. I felt I had a foolproof plan to do something to benefit myself. And I didn't talk myself into thinking that it could go bad.
How many weeks you were cashing checks?
Shit, probably like almost 3 years.
Jesus Christ.
Now, how many weeks though? How many checks a week? One?
How many checks a week, you mean? I'm sorry. It depends. It depended on the flow of things, but I think that one time I probably deposited about 10.
In a week?
Mm-hmm.
And what bank was this? Chase?
They're different banks, and then there were different. No, there's different banks.
Bank you was working?
There's different. You mean where the checks were coming from, or the bank I was using? It was like Citizens Bank.
Not talking about
that I had.
The bank you was depositing in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Don't they give it like a red flag after a certain amount? Like
yeah.
After a certain number, they don't come like.
It didn't happen.
IRS don't come.
$10,000 if you do, but that's like if you go like. But this were checks, not me bringing $10,000 of cash. But I never got. Nothing happened.
Now, real quick, did something happen that day? The first day you did it, did something happen to make you like kind of push you over the edge to start it? Like, were you going through a hard time or anything that kind of made you like?
It was a hard financial time. There was addiction going on. He was using, and it took away, a lot. I mean, I had this job, I had this big office and everything, but it wasn't a lot of money. I don't even believe the job. It wasn't even $30,000 a year. I have the 2 boys. We have an apartment, and it wasn't. We weren't able to afford a habit. So I believe rent was due this time, and he was gone with the money. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, okay, I'm always a person thinking, how can I fix this? So any other time it would be maybe, I'm too prideful and embarrassed to call and ask, like, who can I call and ask? Like, my mother, I want to do all that kind of thing. Right. So I used this scheme, and, it worked, and it was on from there. I deposited, once that happened, I was like, I waited a couple of days. He still didn't come home, and I went for it.
That's gangster.
Not really.
So now you're moving and shaking. The money's coming in.
Yeah.
What you start doing with the money?
Well, at the same time, I was learning the music business. So,
what made you get into the music business or want to get into it?
Well, the school I was working at, and not just only that, but the school that I was working at was a school of the arts. So I was already interested in like magazine publishing and stuff like that. And I was going to school for business management, and I liked that, the entertainment aspect, or magazines, stuff like that. So I was already interested in it. And then some friends of mine had started an independent label. And, I was at the school. The school had a radio station. So we kind of, they were kind of asking me for if I had different connects or whatever. And they didn't know what they were doing. And I was learning this. So it's kind of like, plugging them into different things that they could do in the direction where they should go. And as I started doing research about it myself, about the industry myself, then I would find different events to go to and that I could go to and learn the business hands-on and meet people and create a network.